Hey, there we go. What's going on, everybody? Hello, hello, hello.
And then you forgot to pay for the paper that we're going to be putting your diploma on.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi. How about that diploma?
Yeah, it's on paper.
It's on, yeah. That's generally how that works.
Oh wait, I got mine engraved on like a metal plate.
Oh.
But,
yeah.
Was it a hegemonic plate?
It was.
No, he just wears it like a belt buckle everywhere he goes.
That's the most Texan thing.
I don't know. I don't think that is so far the most Texan thing said so far. I still am nominating Wills. Let God sort them out. Oh man, that was good. That was good. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Chilling.
Somewhat excited for tonight.
Somewhat.
Exhausted.
Less sick than last week.
Okay. All right. Well, let me pull up these breakdowns. Let's see what we have here.
Pull it on up to break it down.
Something like that, yeah. But not really. Yeah. We'll make the most of this. Okay.
I mean, it's gotta go better than, the last couple sessions.
I don't know, man. We're about to have a pretty interesting recap, I think. If you guys can recall back that far.
Nope.
I kind of figured that was gonna be the
Two
case.
weeks is out of the scope of my memory.
Well, I mean,
You can basically account all of my memory to basically RAM. After I fall asleep, it's fucking gone. It just disappears.
Which would explain why he's such a lousy player.
Mm-hmm. So wait, Bub, how do I add up my attack roll? It's Dex plus the weapon modifier plus the damage dice, right?
Listen, I don't have
And I
time
get
for
a
your
size modifier
bullshit.
of 3, right?
Okay, I don't have time for it. But more importantly, I don't have the energy for it.
Rocks fall, he dies.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. Your fucking character, she does it all for you. What do you need me for?
This is
No,
true.
I need to.
The robots are taking over.
Well, I mean, technically, we need you to tell us the story, but
I mean, if we get a good enough robot.
we follow the story
Yeah,
so little.
yeah.
It's almost.
It's like a choose your own adventure where solving every puzzle is just stabbing it repeatedly.
Let's stop being inclusive with the we. I follow the story. It's you guys that like to go off on your own beaten path and do crazy shit.
Excuse me, I am the story?
Continue.
Yeah, you kind of were the story though last time. In fact, last session ended with you.
Wholesale slaughter is
whore.
always fun for the family.
You were you took some matters into your own hands. Things went a little strange, but them's the breaks,
Invested
man.
in the brand.
You weren't around to be able to control it, so I had to have fun. You
want me to
forced
start
you
this?
forced my hand. Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll start the recap. Go ahead.
So
Kick her off.
last session, the group ended up taking a pretty hellacious beating. From there, we clearly failed to kill Ike Iverson.
Yeah.
He did manage to get away, but that wasn't before Jakob ended up killing the last gray render of one of the minions of Ike Iverson, and ended up picking up most of the belongings of the party, as well as Cort, who would also taken a pretty fatal blow
Yeah.
just before Ike departed. From there, we ended up having Jakob teleport outside of the temple and heading back to the temple of Palor.
Palor.
Temple of Palor.
Correct.
He ended up dropping off Cort inside the abandoned house to where the secret entrance was, but ended up noticing that the front door to the temple had been swung ajar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to take it from here or you want me to keep going.
Let's go ahead and pass this around. I think this probably goes better for Jakob. Jacob Sniper, hit me with your portion of the tale. Everyone had a little bit happening, so let's talk about it.
Absolutely. So, on noticing that the doors to the Temple of Palor were open, I went ahead and stashed Cort aside because he was a blubbering near corpse, and slipped on inside, invisibly so, and noticed that the priest of the Temple of Pelor was super dead, and in...
What do you mean he was super dead?
Like,
I mean, he was
7
like...
times.
It was kind of like a prison shanking, only more personal. And
There's like levels.
yeah. And the young man that we had left from the Temple of Ouijas was actually coming across looking for the knife that he had actually stabbed the priest with.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
dropped it, or it was thrown from him or something like that, but
He dropped it, he threw it, he was a little bit of emotion, an emotional wreck. And, well, I maybe accidentally killed him.
Maybe.
I certainly don't think your intentions were to kill him.
I think the tasing was pretty excessive.
It's kind of like the Tip Tavern all over, the Tip Tankard all over again. Went ahead and thought, oh yeah,
Good
this
intentions, yet you end up murdering someone.
best intentions, killed another child. Fuck.
Yeah. Wow,
If
that's
they
like...
weren't so,
It is.
if they
it is,
weren't
though.
so squishy.
If children... That's got to go on a shirt for you in the future.
This is like reason number fucking 1 million that you have to stay away from children, in or out of character.
If children weren't so squishy, they would survive better. Sniper.
All I
2019.
did was go ahead and hit him with a lightning bolt, pretty much.
Only turned his meat sack into a humidified.
You stopped his heart.
Don't refer to a children's meat sack. That's just not right.
That's wrong, even by my standards, and I let a lot slide.
When you gotta wait till late game but get ganked early game.
Yeah.
Yes, Annie, that is the quote of the night.
It's
I'd
like
kill
those
less
that
children
you
if they weren't so
microwave them with
squishy.
your hand.
So, anyways, having, hit him with the taser and apparently finding out he had a broken heart,
Yeah.
I went ahead and
Doctor,
discovered
it's not a
exactly who it
broken heart.
was,
Yeah.
and I thought I'd be clever. I went ahead and took his own knife and stabbed it into his own chest.
Only once, right?
Just the once,
Just
and
once.
left
not
it there.
multiple times.
I figured that if anything would happen, it would draw a little bit of attention to the Temple of Ouijas, right?
Good, yeah.
Spent some time, locked the door, spent some time looking around, trying to see if there's any reason why somebody would want to kill the priest of Pelor. Because it made no sense whatsoever to me. Certainly they were casting a shadow on him, but it's not like he was necessarily impeding whatever was going on. He was just kind of holding his own.
But not all things go according to plan. It's not like you wanted to go in and frame this child as
No.
what it was.
I was just making the most of the situation. So anyways, as I'm about to step out, wouldn't you know it, that fucking bitch.
I'm just gonna properly reword this to what actually happened. After I spent 40 minutes trying to find what I could steal from the Church of Pelor and not finding anything, then I decided to leave. And wouldn't you know it, plot hammer happened because I waited 40 minutes trying to steal from a dead clergyman.
No, I did not try and steal anything. I was very specific that I was looking for documentation and paperwork.
Sniper, we learned about this last time with the bathhouse. You take the deed and you come back 20 years later.
True. If I'd have been smart, I'd have just been like, oh yeah, my new temple. Yeah, he signed it in blood because he really wanted me to have it.
Yeah, he did.
Technically, they died in my temple.
He couldn't find his ink and quill, or his quill and pen, what have you, so he just kept dabbing from these random spots that were stabbed on his body to sign. Over and over again.
But anyways, in stepping out, Kiana Green interrupted my quick exit.
Yes, she did.
And yeah, some fast talking happened. went ahead and let her inside, showed her the bodies, made it very clear I had nothing at all to do with the priest, and, you know, kind of, yeah, I found him like that with the knife in his chest, Your Honor. And while I was lying my ass off about having killed the kid, I noticed that it was a little more difficult than normal. Like, not quite like I had a conscience, but it was that I couldn't talk quite.
Yeah, you were like stuttering, and you couldn't quite figure out why.
Yeah, apparently I had somehow ended up in a sudden zone of truth that had absolutely no components or anything required. And when I looked at Kiana, because I'm somewhat confused why she would not believe me of all people, I noticed that her eyes were jet black. So, yeah, I mean, she's human. She's normally got green eyes, usually red rimmed from crying like a bitch, but no, these were like totally black. And like most smart tieflings, I ran like a bitch.
Yeah, like most smart tieflings, he hauled ass. He did.
I de-assed the area and then flew off. Pow! Superman style.
Something like that. Yep. Yeah, he ran away, and now he can only presume that he's likely wanted. Likely.
Again, it's just misunderstandings.
Yeah, that'll just go over well. You know, eventually, at some point, Jared will reach his limit.
To be fair, he should be happy. We killed something that wanted to murder him. Quite viciously, in fact.
See, Zach,
well, he doesn't know
did
that.
him a favor, finally.
Zach, the problem isn't so much that the character isn't helping them, because the character has helped in the past, but she doesn't trust them.
Yeah, that's also what happens when her best friend essentially gets sent into this party and then literally is in a body bag the next week.
And besides, I'm not even all that convinced that, you know, Miss Green is actually Miss Green. I'm fairly certain she's currently under demonic possession. Otherwise, yes, we're going to blame you for everything, Zach.
Lord. All right. Okay. So that's sort of what happened with the
also
part of your event.
You're quite right.
But then we went ahead and cut away to. Then we went ahead and cut away to Occipitus.
Yeah. Yeah, Klaus. What?
There's a sick, nasty rave going on.
What's happening there, man? What's going on in the SIP?
So they were leaving the Temple of Ouijas, right?
Yeah.
There's that goddamn portal there.
It's just chilling.
My fucking domain, and you know, because I didn't have control over my body, my spark decided, you know, what would be fun. Let's dip into this portal over here and close it behind me, so that no one can follow me.
Because that's a great idea.
Interestingly enough,
fucking like Boulevard of Broken Dreams did into there.
Interestingly enough, your portal didn't close. It's still there.
Oh, that's
I'm pretty sure you said it closed right behind me.
If I did, I definitely didn't mean that. It's still open.
Okay, well, interestingly enough, I'm in Occipitus now.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Use your portal to the nether.
You didn't just go there just because your body wanted to go there. Like, something happened. Something called you there.
Fucking brother.
Yeah. Let's kind of put that on the plate right here. The entree of the meal that I think is we've just been waiting on. What's happening right there? What's that about? What do you suspect is happening?
He ran out of trust fund money and needs a loan.
He might, actually. He might. Dad cut him off, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to set him free, as is kind of par for the course. He's been locked up for a long time. And he's tired of it, frankly. He wants to be unleashed on the world again, and I'm not down with that. Because last time that happened, shit got fucked up real quick.
So, do you have much recollection of what it was like when he was freed, or do you have any...
Mostly passed down from stories and tall tales. So I mean, there's probably a good bit of it that's exaggeration, but at the same time, the fact that there are very few people left to tell the tale gives me a good indication that at least most of it is true.
I agree.
More horrific parts, especially.
I mean, it's not without saying that you could probably find someone or some texts about this, right? Like it's a really good chance that this could happen. But that being said, you don't have anyone right now. You know, nothing is gonna kind of tell you. But he went on to say that inevitably he will be freed. He's either going to be let loose of your accord, or something else is going to happen to set him free, but he feels it's coming. Do you think this is some sort of precognizance? Is this DM shenanigans? Or was this kind of planned all along, do you think?
No, I mean, there's definitely been forces working towards setting him free. For example, the disappearance of the Elder Skellerang.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel that I was compelled to take over Spellmason's body at some point when we were in Red Gorge. That was all part of a plan somehow. So there's machinations that are sort of pushing us towards this inevitable end. But at the same time, I feel like it's probably not going to happen the way we expect it to. Or the way that anyone really planned for it to happen.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, the body of the old man, the body is now dead, right? Like, I mean, it's re-dead. So how useful will that body actually be now that it's no longer under gentle repose? I mean, it's going to quickly deteriorate. So this should be kind of wild. Let's hop over to whom here? Cort. Yeah, Cort. Yours is a little shorter than I feel like the others are, but I feel like it's certainly worth noting your experience.
I cradled Ronald's. Yeah, I cradled his face with my arm while I sobbed like a newborn child, and he healed me very slowly and steadily as I sobbed until Jakob eventually came back to me. In which case, I had revealed to him my character's backstory of the traumatizing past. Everyone that I know and love is dead. My home is on fire. I don't know who did it, and I've repressed all of these memories since then.
Yeah, some things certainly happened. You, if anybody didn't know, in my games, I grant my players, in their first time with a character, they get a temporary, what is known as an Aegis, which is essentially a shield. And when the shield cracks, it's because they died. They hard died. They're not supposed to come back kind of died. And the chat has to raise X amount of reputation to resurrect that character, but they only get to do it one time. And his Aegis cracked, the reputation was raised, but the problem is, when he was returned, those walls that he built up were gone. They were destroyed, letting back the flood of emotions and the memories that he had hid. And that revealed his past. It was reminded of him. So I think more than anything that besides the fact that Klaus has had to go back to Occipitus, besides the fact that Ulhime has had a very wild adventure, which I don't really feel like we clearly know all of just yet, but we'll get to that. I think the most emotional experience was probably for Cort, because he's had to live this once before, and now he had to relive it all over again. And for clarity's sake, how old is Cort in game?
Let me check so I'm not quoting wrong. He's 19.
He's a squire. He's still a squire at this point.
And this would have happened roughly a year ago, if I remember correctly.
Admittedly, you're kind of a badass squire, courtesy of your levels, but you don't really have the tutelage or the wisdom of someone to be able to assist you in the world the way that you need.
He was essentially right on the cusp of becoming the knight. Like, he would have came back that day, have been knighted, but literally everything was on fire. It was awkward.
It's weird trying to balance out the game's mechanics with the narrative itself, because a lot of people would say that a character that has 10 plus levels should not be saddened and or broken by these things, but we utilize the mechanics to copacetically deal with the story's mechanics as well, because narratively, you could realistically talk your way out of most situations. You could probably talk bosses down.
I could have smashed their faces in.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done that. That's definitely a thing, but narratively, it's in a very different spot. So how do we communicate those emotions, especially over the next week? I think that's going to be very difficult. And it's actually going to put some hardship in your role-playing court. I think that's going to be a challenge for you to really kind of represent that. And I believe so long as you try, I think you're going to see some camaraderie and assistance from Jakob. I know that that's definitely in his wheelhouse. Something that he wants to try to do is help you back.
Jakob had to sit there and listen to it because Jakob basically did that unplugging the cork and said, "Hey, what's wrong?" and got the proverbial vomit of emotions.
Okay. Well, mostly it's the fact that all of my friends are dead and I need to use you as the human shield, so straighten the fuck up.
Good luck.
That's 100% not the case. Jakob has been such a bullheaded asshole all the way through this, it wouldn't matter if he was alone or not. It's just putting on a face at this point. So let's talk now about Ulhime's adventure. His entire adventure.
Like a recap from the beginning to now?
No.
Or are you talking about just...
What all did you see when you were in your apparative form? Your apparition state there. Ghost time.
Oh, I saw Thelsa come back. I also heard this... Oh, let's go in order. First, I heard Cort's story and tried to console him, but being in my ghost form, he wasn't able to see me.
Correct.
But I was there to hear his story. From there, I ended up finding out that Thelsa was still alive, and finding out that she committed a very, very evil act of murder.
A heinous series of murders, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Thelsa was completely in control of her person at that point?
Yeah, I mean, totally. There was nothing, at least Ulhime could see, that would make him believe otherwise. On top of that, there was no strain in like her movements. She wasn't fighting against anything. She was just doing something to do it. And once more, as Ulhime realizes that the weapon that she used was Cort's weapon, but he doesn't know that the blade belongs to his master just yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ulhime is at this point biding his time to see what's going to happen when he comes back.
You went on a bit of a magic carpet ride back onto a particular line. A line that you had seen many times before, but this time...
Pharasma's boneyard.
On the way to be judged in the boneyard, yeah.
Except I was stepping out of that line.
You did. You stepped out of line, and it made most of the people standing in line, waiting to be judged, it made them horrendously sad, or appalled, frustrated, angry, disgusted. It was a number of feelings that pretty much everyone was feeling, but they couldn't step away. It's like they were stuck in a glass hallway. And you were met again by Pharasma for not the first time. Was this the second or the third time?
Second.
I think it's the second time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did she say to you? Why are you still allowed to walk? What did she infer?
Because there's still one person that believes in me and in Helm. I won't fade away completely. I'll always keep coming back. But I essentially fight. Well, yeah, that's what she told me, that because I still have someone that believes in me, she can't completely judge me on whether or not I'm going to be passing through the afterlife, and that infuriated her to no end.
Yeah,
especially after she told me to stay out of her her boneyard unless I was actually coming back to be judged, and every time I've come back, I've told her essentially, no, like, you don't judge me.
Yeah. Lord, yeah, you have a very wildly, I don't want to say contrived, but you have I think you have a very interesting story. You are quite literally hanging on by a breath's thread. A child is more or less your anchor to the mortal coil. And the only thing that's kind of keeping you alive is a certain switch, which is bound to be shaped very soon. If not, you will continue to return back to the living world in a very, very poor position. You did return after a week's time. But when you returned, there was something different about you physically.
The shoulder guard had Jimothy's face on.
Jimothy's face, yeah. His mourning face it's almost been like it was cast around a human face. Like it is watching outward and expressing where you cannot. It's the last known follower and believer of Helm.
But Ulhime doesn't see that as a way to, I guess, scare and intimidate him. It's kind of like a reminder that he has to...
Yeah. Where the outward person would see it's the last thread. Ulhime is like, but it's the strongest thread, right? Like it's the one that it keeps this thing afloat. And I think that's imperative for this particular narrative. I like that a lot. So last we have Annie with Thelsa.
Big me.
Yeah. Yeah, your tale's a little different.
Yeah.
Last you recall, you woke up when you should have been dead, covered in blood. Blood that was not your own. And
Thankfully.
Blood that was not that of a demon's or Grey Render's.
Unfortunately.
Man, it's kind of a wild experience. What do you think you would be doing in that moment?
I'd be more focused on where the blood came from, and once I realized that it was my family, I'd probably start cleaning, because, I mean, someone walks in on this or someone sees this happen, and I'm gonna be in a lot of shit real quick. And then once I've done a good enough job that I'm not walking the streets covered in blood, I'm gonna figure out why or what compelled me to do this.
So I'm going to go ahead and start today's session with just that, okay? With just these moments. Let me go ahead and find the appropriate everythings. What did I want? I think I wanted this one. Okay. We'll be starting here with Thelsa. Thelsa, as you awaken, you find yourself hidden away with cracks of light breaking in from a ruddered surrounding. When you look around you, the walls have closed in so incredibly tight that you're not quite sure how you found yourself in the situation. This isn't hell. It's certainly not hell. Hell would be much more infernal, much hotter, you would think. But you feel your clothing is very damp, and it's got that coppery smell to it. You can smell, but it's not your first time smelling blood. Light breaks through overhead in cracks when you realize that you are captive in some sort of cage. Ronald, your camera died.
Yeah.
Thelsa, the floor is still yours, even if Ronald's struggling with his phone.
Yeah. I'm gonna see, like, it's completely dark.
It's not completely dark. Bits of light is breaking in from above.
I'm gonna try and find whatever exit there is to this place. if there happens to be one.
Okay, give me just a moment. I've got to fix literally all of the cameras now. Let's see.
Way to go, Ronald.
He had to
You
use
broke
his
the
phone.
game.
And 5. It just says Ronald in Ulhime Square. I love it. Okay. So say it again for me, Annie. What are you doing?
Trying to find a way out of this cage.
Yeah. You feel your back is to wooden planks as you kind of push yourself. The floor itself is made of dirt. It's like a topsoil, but it's still very rocky. You can definitely tell that you're probably home, or at least by home I mean the material plane. There is wood to your left, right, in front of you, and the roof. You note that when you put your hands up, the roof is slanted.
I'm gonna try pushing on whatever's in front of me. See if I can, push it open if it's a door of some sort, because I had to get in here.
Sure. When you begin pushing on the walls, they've been nailed down enough so that you can feel that they're giving a little bit, but it's not enough for you to kind of break through. Air is coming through. You're capable of breathing, but the only time you get any like footing beneath you is when you kind of lift above. When you lift up, you feel that there isn't as much resistance.
And how high is the roof from my head?
Probably 8 or 9 inches.
Okay, so it's within arm's reach.
Yes.
I'm gonna try and push on the roof to see if I can, make...
When you push with your right, you don't really get much lift, but you notice that as it comes down to a slant just above your head, where it's closest to your head, it does give, and you can feel it starts to swing upward. So it's on some sort of hinge.
I'm going to try and push from the lower half to try and open up the door.
It doesn't take much. When you begin to push outward, you see that you're in some kind of cabinet, a container of sorts. Something outside. Do you stand?
Yes.
When you push up entirely and you stand up, the sunlight kind of beams down and strikes you, and you realize that you're in a very familiar place. You are just outside of your family's home. This is actually a wood shed where they would keep the cut wood so it wouldn't get wet. You notice all of the loose timber and planks of wood are kind of thrown outward like you intentionally came here, some sort of grave of sorts.
I am going to, upon seeing all of the blood and mess that I'm going to try and, I figure I would know where the closest door is to the inside of my house. And
Definitely.
I'd try and get in there because, I don't want to be seen outside like that.
Yeah, when you begin to move to the door, you see that your family was wealthy. They had windows. You can stop to peer inside. Give me perception as you walk by.
Okay. $41.
Wow. Yeah, sure enough, out of your peripheral vision, as you're moving forward, you are capable of seeing what looks to be the top of your mother's head. She's like sitting down, probably where she normally would. It seems like she's probably knitting or she's preparing something like a quilt, something to that matter. But you can see that she's sitting there, and you can see that because you're looking at her from the back, right? So as you're looking, you can see the top of her head. You can also see your sister's legs. It's your youngest sister, because nobody else in your family has had a child up to this point. And you can see her shoes. She has very high blundered socks and shoes. They're not super nice, but nice enough for your family, because a lot of children didn't have shoes at this time. Do you keep moving?
Yep, I would head inside because at least I know there's some kind of change of clothes here for me because I just want to get out of this, really.
Yeah. When you begin moving to the front door, you see people passing by. They don't really think too much of it, but they kind of stop and pause to see you, size you up. You realize that while you're wearing these black, brown, and red robes, there is a very obvious, like, stark wetness to it. And you look strange to most of the naked eye. When you quickly realize what's happening and you begin moving in, you realize that the door itself is ajar. It's not been closed. You find that strange. Your mother's always been one to close absolutely everything that has to be in perfect order. That's how she operates in her world.
So I'd push the door open and I'd step in and kind of say, hello?
There's no response as you push the door in. You're met with what looks like dust that seems to have plumed up from the door kicking open. But the light is just kind of pouring in over the top of you, and you see the dust in the light itself. But your silhouette enters into the room, and there's just this silence. Just awestruck silence. There are no children's laughters. There's no longer the sounds of your mother cooking or baking or doing anything of that nature, where normally your house was so incredibly loud. It isn't any longer.
I'm gonna close the door behind me and just slowly step into the room where I saw my family, because it doesn't make much sense that there's no noise coming.
Sure. When you step in, you look over immediately, and you're caught a gasp at the situation. You were not expecting to see what you see. Your mother is sitting in her chair, if you will, and she is cradling your sister. The problem is your mother's face has been split from the top of her forehead basically down to the bridge of her nose, and there is a very visible split in her face. Your sister is missing her head. Now, based on sizing this up immediately, something had to place the bodies this way.
Yeah, because it would be real tough to chop a head off and then get cut in half and then pick the person up.
Exactly.
I'm like taken aback. I kind of don't really know what to do in this situation. Well, Thelsa doesn't know what to do in this situation, so she's just going to kind of wander and follow the blood trails to see what's going on. She doesn't fully understand.
Now, Thelsa, you didn't particularly like most of your family, largely because of the way that your middle sister treated you. You also didn't like the fact that your youngest sister was favored by your mother, and that your mother didn't really seem to care through the abuse of your stepfather. She also didn't really know how far it had gone.
Yeah. I'd probably start looking through the rest of the house for him, because since he's not in this room, I'd figure he was the next, or the first culprit.
Yeah. When you move into the bedroom, the blood seems to have poured down the bedside, puddled up at the foot, or at the side of the bed, and it seems to be bloodied footprints that are exiting the room. But when you look upward, you follow the blood up the side of the bed, and you see the bed itself. It's hard to even understand that this at one point was a person. The linen is stained crimson. Whatever cloth this individual, and I say that carefully, so was wearing, seems almost non-existent. You can see bits, seem like pulled thread here and there, but it's mostly just viscera. Something occurred, and your stepfather, you remember him being ill in his old age, This was his bed. This is where he stayed. There are probably more cut marks and chops and severings of parts from his body than there are fingers and toes in the house.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do note that just beside the pool of coagulant that is gathered at the side of the bed, there is what looks to be a weapon. It seems crude in construct. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to you because it has the hilt of a blade like a sword, but the instrument, the part of the blade that was meant to slay or to chop or what have you, it's just made of what looks like flashing metal. Like a blacksmith took the hot metal, placed it between a vise, and then just pulled while it was fresh. It forms the equivalent of some kind of crude chopping instrument like a butcher's knife or a small hand axe. And based on the events finding this as well, you can probably assume that this was the weapon. This was the murder weapon.
Yeah, I would have that presumption.
It looks incredibly familiar. Can I get a d20 plus your wisdom modifier, please?
Sure.
Saying the giant bloody sword next to the cut up corpses could be the cause? I thought it was strangulation.
This looks like Cort's favored weapon. A weapon that not only did he brandish several times, but he cleaned thoroughly. He treated this as it was his most prized possession. You recognize the stylized design of the pommel. You see how the handguard seems to curve outward. This is very clearly Cort's weapon, but Cort is nowhere to be seen. Give me a will save.
Cort did it all along.
15.
Thelsa, you have a memory flooding back to you at this point. When you say Cort's name, you begin recalling the events that had just happened. As you see multiple strikes out from a gray render, some scorpion-like humanoid creature slashing with its tail, a spirit pulling away at Jakob's body multiple times, and you realize that your friends have all died. The only people that walked out of there, you believe, is you.
But I don't remember how.
Exactly.
First things first, I need to clean this place up. That's my first thought because, Thelsa's not going anywhere. If she tries to report this, it's immediately going to turn back on her. So she's going to try and do what she can to make sense of it while cleaning a little bit up.
I need a perception, please.
Okay. 29.
When these thoughts begin flooding to your mind, you hear this sound just from the opposite room, from where you've come from. And you hear this... And then something thuds, dropping to the wooden slat floors.
In my taken aback state, I'm just going to kind of walk into the other room and just kind of I'd still be holding the weapon in my hands and just kind of look at whoever walked in like, I don't know what's going on.
When you move into the other room, gripping the weapon, you pass by the door, prepared to see whatever may be lying in wait for you. And there, in the front doorway, just dropping a basket of linen, sheets, clothes, nightwear, your middle sister stands. She's about 15, 16 years old. Her mouth covered, her eyes as far open as they possibly could be. You can see a wellspring fill up, preparing to burst from each of her eyes. Her fingers begin to tremble and shake over her mouth. Her shoulders shudder at the blood. She takes a step in, not even realizing that you're there, and she sees her mother and her sister. You hear an, "Oh God." She turns back, and then she sees you. What do you do, Thelsa?
I'm just gonna drop the weapon and realize that my favorite of the sisters is having to go through a lot more shit than I wanted to go through. And I'm just gonna kind of drop the weapon and fall to my knees and start to cry as well.
You've got to realize that when you fall to your knees, despite you dropping this blade, you have blood covering your entire body, at least the front half of your body. You have bony plates that jut upward off of your orbital bones. Your jaw seems slightly distended further and almost incredibly masculine, yet covered in this green-like plating, of which they seem to jut as well from the top of your breastbone. Your eyes are almost reptilian and demonic at the same time. You don't look like the sister that she came to know and love. As you begin to cry, your sister backpedals. She takes a step back. Do you continue to cry?
I'm gonna take a step towards her and say, It's me, it's Thelsa.
As you say this, there's this diffluous tone that seems to hang underneath your own voice, and it comes out, It's me, it's Thelsa. She takes another step back, and her heel kicks the basket. She falls over the top of it, the fresh linen roll into bloodied footprint. No, God, no, please. Do you continue forward?
I take another step forward and say, I don't want to hurt you. I didn't do.
She begins pushing herself off of the floor, at least as much as she can, her arms behind her. She's sort of like pseudo-crab walking away from you as much as she can. Anything?
You have to believe me. And I'm going to close the door beside me because, fuck, I don't need anyone else walking in on this.
Give me a reflex.
Okay. Well, that's a great reflex.
Thelsa.
Yeah.
As you begin to put your arm forward to push the door closed, your sister rolls and starts running out of the door.
All right.
The moment that her body breaks the barrier of the doorway itself, she starts screaming, crying outward, screaming for help.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do what I plan on doing, and I'm gonna get the fuck out of there.
How are you doing that?
I'm gonna cast a bloodline spell.
Okay. Which one?
Mislead.
You become invisible as greater invisibility or glamour, and at the same time an illusory double of you as major image as a figment appears. You are then free to go elsewhere while your double moves away. The double... Oh, so you become Nico.
Yeah, I pulled Nico, except I don't do the whole disguise person until later.
Gotcha. All right, you mislead. Where do you go? I'm curious.
I'm gonna see as far as I can get towards the bathhouse. Trying to stay to the shadows, but that's the only place I really know where people can trust me, because this is not it.
Thelsa, give me a perception, please.
$40.
As you walk away, trying your best to hide in the shadows, to dip, despite your invisibility, over to the bathhouse, when you drop down and begin to cry, you didn't realize it until now, but you are instinctively clutching onto Cort's blade. You walk, and it slaps into the side of your person. It's only then that you notice that you are desperately clutching onto this in means of either protection or something more sinister. How long does this last? One round per level?
Yeah, not long.
Not long, you're right. And it's going to take you some time to get to the bathhouse.
Yep.
So after a minute, what do you do?
I'd find a dark place, and I'm gonna try and teleport to the bathhouse with the spell. Using a lot of spells here, but I just need to get out of here.
Sure. Go ahead and queue up teleport for me. Maybe as distant as 100 miles per caster level. Okay.
I hope it's not that far.
It's 1,200 miles.
It's 1,200 miles to the bathhouse.
Good.
Good thing
Yeah,
it's level
that's
13.
fine.
Cauldron's a big city.
1,300 miles.
You teleport. You do so. You commit to the verbal components, and you summoned yourself immediately with a whip of the area around you. You're pulled in like it's suctioning away your person from the environment, and you reappear similarly so inside of the bathhouse. We'll say that it's back to the wall inside of the primary office. How long do you stay there?
Well, I figure I would have some kind of clothing here. I would plan on changing and getting into something more fitting, and then trying to look for anything that might be.
There's really not any extra clothing here. You guys haven't had an opportunity to stock this, but what you will find is that there are some loose linen bathrobes. As you make your way around, you'll find something. The small private bathing areas are currently filled with heaps of blood chunk.
Yep, never got to clean those.
No, not yet. But we'll find you something in the meantime. And I think you'll be able to create... You'll either be able to, like, create water, or you'll have water skin and be able to at least clean your hands and face.
Yeah.
That's fine. Then we're going to pass this back. We're going to move back over to Ulhime, Cort, and Jakob. Hell, even Klaus at this point. I think it's pretty important to have that there. So, I say this largely because you guys have had a week. You've had a week to determine what it is that you're going to be doing. And that's something that we kind of have to discover. We have to figure that one out. So, let's do that. Let's figure out what you guys are going to be doing. I'm going to go ahead and start with the details of Ulhime. Ulhime, you had some things that you wanted to do. You had some things that you wanted to complete.
Yes.
On your to-do list, you said that you wanted to follow up on Thelsa.
Oh, yeah.
Your last recollection of Thelsa, as you were moving about the town, was what exactly? What do you last recall?
It would be the hellacious murder that she did, and then from there, I mean, he would have kept track of her up until the point until she teleported, because he can't just like go like, oh, I know exactly where she's at.
True.
So.
True.
Up until
So what you would have seen, Ulhime, is that she every day that you came back to the house, She hadn't moved. She stood there like a sentry, watching. Not moving around, eyes not scanning the horizon. But she stood there watching, and a week's passed. At some point, when you came back, she was gone. You don't know where exactly she went, but she was gone. You looked around, nothing seemed very out of place to you. You didn't think much of it. And she was gone. Now that begs the question of what happened in the week with the middle sister. Why was the middle sister gone for a week? You have other family in the town. Now, what that speaks to what happened with your stepfather, with your mother, and your middle sister doesn't really particularly matter. But there's obviously something going on there familially, which made her stay away. However, it was just convenient, if you will, for her to arrive at that particular point. Now, you lost track of her. You're not really sure, but you did have intentions of moving about the town. You also wanted to read up on the text of the Temple of Ouijas. What exactly did you want to discover about Ouijas?
So it wasn't just on Ouijas. It was seeing where if any text had just been suddenly erased, continuing on with whether or not Helm's existence has just been completely overshadowed. On top of that, it's figuring out what Ouijas is all about, essentially, like the whole paradigm. Is that what it's called? Whole paradigm of what Ouijas encompasses, like followers, basic viewpoints, known rituals, and then if any of that has to correlate to what we found before, which is leading to one of the other things with the soul cage.
So, Ouijas is the goddess of magic, death, vanity, and law. Now, you know, in the tabletop world, we're doing two things here. One, we're mixing in the world of Pathfinder on top of an existing World of Greyhawk campaign with Ouijas. So, that in and of itself, we're going to have some overlapping of deities. Okay? In this case, she's the particular goddess of death, vanity, law, and magic. Ouijas is known as the Ruby Sorceress, the Dark-Eyed Lady, the Witch Goddess. She's oftentimes referred to as the one and only Stern Lady and the Taker, the Lady of Book and Bone, and the Guardian of Death. Now, there's a lot of documentation on Ouijas, particularly her relationship in the world. Her dogma, the various worshippers, and things like that. Is there anything particular that you wanted to see if I could find?
I mean, the dogma. I think the dogma would probably be the biggest thing, and known, I guess, enemies. Other deities she's I guess negative or opposed to.
Sure. So maybe the dogma will help you here. Ouijas believes herself as a true steward of the dead. Though she is relatively benign, she has no problem with undead being created. This is where she differs primarily from Pharasma, as long as they're not reanimated against their will and the remains are procured in a lawful manner. Ouijas is concerned with questions of morality. If it can be done within the confines of the law, she does allow it. Jacedan priests teach that magic is the key to all things, and Jacedan are expected to show respects to their predecessors and their departed. Priests of the Ouijas are known as Karuth. They wear layered, full-length hooded robes, alternating in color of red, black, and gray. Customarily, their hoods are left hanging on the back to reveal their jewelry adorned their heads. Their particular jewelry is that of the skull and gem motifs on their arms and necks, as well as the staves that they carry. Their favorite weapon is the dagger, as Jakob has come to learn, but they will literally use any sort of weapon favored by mages at all.
Cool. All right. I think another thing would be is there any known holidays regarding Weejoss and the timing of what we've seen with that pylon?
Potentially, actually. The known holidays is the night of the waxing moon. On these nights when Selene or Luna are waxing, Jacedan light magical bonfires, create illusions, and offer praise and sacrifice to their goddess. There is the goddess's blush, which is on the 4th of Kuldivan. Let's see what that is.
It's a Wednesday.
It's not a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
It's always Wednesday.
I'll have to tell you a bit more about Kuldivan a little bit later.
That's no problem. We can just go off of.
But essentially, they gather at the temple to burn a piece of jewelry as a sacrifice to the taker, and then there is a very important holiday. It's the main holiday for the clergy and the convocation. It's called the Ruby Convocation. It's a holiday primarily for the clergy and the lady of high status. The Ruby Convocation is held once every 10 years, and in this festival, it's modeled after an extravagant ball. Contacts are made and reinforced, stories are told, and the knowledge is exchanged. And at the end, guests drink wine out of a goblet with a ruby sitting in it. This is known as the Ruby Toast, and is given in thanks to the Ruby Sorceress. After the drink, the ruby is cast into the fire, and it melts away.
Alrighty, cool. Yeah, once I learn all of that, I'll move on to the next.
Okay.
Which would be the observe the movements within the temple after I'm done with.
Sure. Over the next week, you'll note that the temple has been abandoned almost entirely.
No sign of Ike Iverson or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Okay. Seeing that it's kind of love to be abandoned, I'll try to commune with the soul cage in my ghost form to see if anything happens.
It's actually wild that you say that. So, let me pull up the information on this cage. So, you said that you wanted to do what exactly to it?
Commune with it to see if I can talk to it or figure out if I can draw from it in any way to do anything from it.
Sure. Let me see what I can tell you. Okay. From the looks of it, you are actually unable to commune with this in any way. Your current state is not allowing you to do just about anything. You can get a solid look at it, but unfortunately you are incapable of committing to it in any kind of physical way or manner.
Yeah, I mean, I think
lacking a body helps on that front.
Yeah, I think you already kind of gave us a physical description. It was like the bluish-white light of souls or something like that, or like a bluish-white flame emitting. But if I can't do anything else with it, then...
Oh, here we go. Okay, I've got more I can tell you here. Give me a what knowledges do you have?
I have knowledge, religion, and knowledge, religion. As my known one, but I have Arcana, history.
You can give me a planes check. Go ahead. That's
18?
Not bad, but it's not quite good enough. Let me see what I can give you here. And give me a knowledge. You said you do have religion, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Even in your current ghost-like state, you can tell that the soul cage itself radiates strong magic. Among the strongest physical item that you've seen. And it's not just a singular form of magic, it's not just enchantment. You're actually saying that this has twists and knots in abjuration, conjuration, and it just reeks of necromancy. Amidst that, its presence alone represents great evil. I must feel like it's important to say that this is made of twisting silver and obsidian bars. The bars of this cage twist in on themselves in a strange and disturbing pattern. You can't exactly tell what this goes, or what is designed to do, but from what you can tell, that an individual capable of making something like this, well, this was one that was either created by gods or blacksmiths of capability untold.
Cool. Okay, I get you. All right. From there, let's see. I guess at that point, the next thing I would do would be send messages to Klaus and Jakob about Thelsa in any way possible, whether it's through some form of touch or using fogged mirror to type something out. Anything that I can do, I will do.
Communicating in the material plane from your current form is very difficult. In order for you to leave a message, it takes so much time that it just sort of drives you mad. Not that I'm saying that you can't, but you're not going to be able to leave long-winded diatribes. It's going to take you upwards of half an hour to, like, scriven down a 6 or 7 letter word.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you want to do, we can impart the message.
I guess throughout the day, I'll start writing like a word. So it'll be like on the dirt part of the floor where Jakob and Cort are. The first word would be her name, and then I'll erase it, and then I'll put killed. From there, erase it. Her, erase it, and then family, and then erase it.
So,
I'll leave that.
So, I just want to make sure that I'm clear here. You're writing each word and then erasing it,
and then writing
without even confirming that we've seen it.
I'm saying it. That's how I'm performing the action. I'm waiting until you do before I erase it. I'm not just.
He's assuming we're seeing
writing it down.
I want to give a shot here to Jakob and to Cort to actually see this, because you guys are going to be going out and doing your own things as well. At least some of you have goals of that. I know particularly Jakob does. So go ahead and give me some perceptions, please. 3 from both of you.
All right. 1, 2, and did that put down 3?
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Cool.
Jakob didn't
I'm
actually.
the more observant one for once.
Jakob didn't actually catch it for one reason.
Jakob was gone most of the day.
He missed out on those details, but
It's a good thing Cort wasn't.
Cort has spent a lot of time this past week in reflection, looking at himself internally, trying to discover, what it is that has kind of racked his brain, why these memories are pooling up now of all times, and what exactly is happening. So, that in turn brings you here, Cort. In your moments of meditation, when you're trying to push some feelings aside and feel strong for yourself, if not for anyone else, you see something. And it strikes you as odd, but you can't quite follow it because it moves so slow that it's almost painful for you to watch. But every time you open your eyes, it seems a little more has been etched into either the wood or into the dirt. And it seems almost as if it's spelling out a word in front of you. It'll take a full day, but you'll piece it together. Something is trying to inform you that Thelsa killed her family.
Cort doesn't know anything about Thelsa's family, or if they're even in the town, because she has never spoken of family around Cort. Cort, however, would have to wait until Jakob would get back from his errands, and where he would immediately try to tell him, but the initial thoughts going through his mind would be more than likely utter confusion. Being this would be the first time he's ever heard of her family.
Yeah.
Never before has it been spoken of. So to him, this is... Thelsa has a family. Wait, Thelsa doesn't have a family. Thelsa killed the family.
Yeah, at least not anymore, yeah.
Yeah. And then this also is going back to his moral question of, are we the baddies?
I think it's an important question to have.
Because if Thelsa's killing her family, without making too many assumptions, that is not usually a sentence that denotes good guy vibes.
It's true. It's true. It certainly raises to question whether or not you have been roving with the good guys or the bad guys.
Yeah.
It's a good question to ask.
Cort's still unsure. He's been unsure since the bathhouse, since meeting them on the first day and Jakob getting stabbed in the middle of the street. Usually not a thing that also happens to good guys.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
With anything, he'd be holding that in while he still contemplates eventually doing physical exercises, so he's not just sitting there idly.
That makes sense.
Up until Jakob would come back.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have on this list here. We have...
Is there a part where anyone goes to Charlie's house?
Probably not.
Will, you should go there. You'd be a hit now.
And then the last thing would be number 8.
Yeah.
Saying as his guards were in correspondence with the Ouija's.
Look at the paperwork of the guard captain and follow the Blue Duke to his locations, both public and private. This is going to take upwards of a day.
I ain't got nowhere else to go.
Yeah. In that day's time,
He'll break for lunch.
you'll follow through on the paperwork of the guard captain, at least what you found, and it will initially take you into the encampment. It's the half-orc encampment. This is a place that nobody has thought to investigate up to this point, but there is a half-orc encampment inside of Cauldron. It's in the southern half. And they've come in, they've squatted, essentially. And it's a large encampment. It's like 200 half-orc large. It's a force that's come here, courtesy of the actions of the Blue Duke, committing to Cauldron and the forces here. Of course, they're getting handsomely paid. But Ulhime, you'll find that the Blue Duke has his own tent, away from the basic quarters of everyone else. And it is larger, but admittedly, it's not that much better. It's designed similarly. There is a very large cot. It looks to be some kind of desk that seems to be stationed inside of here. And there are various papers that are crudely scribbled on, but you find a lot of chemical reagents. He is a spellcaster that we've seen up to this point. He is intelligent. What are you hoping to find?
To see if there's any correlation between him and the temple, if he makes any mentions of those, to figure out who he's talking to privately when he feels like no one's around, things like.
How long are you hoping to watch him? Pretty much all day, even while he sleeps?
Yeah, so at this point, after I've gotten my message out and I've seen that Cort's kind of did his thing,
yeah,
this is essentially what the rest of the time is, because the more I can inhibit the movements of the temple, the better, I guess, on my end.
Sure. And, that makes sense. Sure. So you spend some time with the Blue Duke, and honestly, it's kind of boring. He actually does a lot of what his job is supposed to be, which is taking care of the town and making sure that the laws have been upheld. But you do notice something strange, something odd about particularly the Blue Duke. It's that he has a bit of a nightly ritual. His nightly ritual is not the same as what you would expect. Someone playing with a cup?
Yeah, I just realized that I'm not.
Genius! So,
Well, I am in your game.
yeah, I know. So the Blue Duke. The Blue Duke is a particularly interesting character. His nighttime ordeals are not the same as everybody else. You know, most of the time you find people try to wash themselves up, they wear whatever it is that they need, and they go about their day. They pass out, they sleep. But the Duke is a little different. He seems to dress the part of going to sleep, but he clutches an amulet. He wears it like it's a part of his person, a part of his being. And it doesn't come on a cord like you would expect many other people to wear an amulet. This comes on a very terse metal, like it was designed to be a metal choker. Sort of like it's almost trying to cage him. He'll go to sleep. He'll go to sleep that night. Nothing crazy about that.
I mean, if it's possible to get a look at the amulet, is there any engravings or anything on it that I could point out?
Yeah, actually. This is a good chance. You find that it sits, it's a silver choker that goes up and around the neck. And it has a bit of a crafted, what looks to be like an opal that seems to be crafted in the face of a man. Doesn't really seem to have any kind of writings on it, but it does seem to observe some latent magical aura. You can determine that even in your current form.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, after my week's time, I don't know if I start feeling my body getting, or my soul getting pulled back towards my body, but I mean, like I said, that would be the remainder of my time, tracking his movements and figuring out who he's aligned with and stuff like that.
Okay. Let me see something real quick. There it is. That's what I needed. If you stay near him throughout his evening, if you kind of stay with him the entire time. Now, the Blue Duke itself, he looks like a half-orc. Like he's intentionally taken on the guise of a half-orc. But you've always been informed that there's something more about him that you're just not fully aware of. And the wild thing about it is nobody has really seen if he has any alternate form. And based on the things that you've found, that if there was ever a chance of him becoming that, of his true form, it would be something relating to this necklace. You're convinced. There's nothing else on his person. Unless he was cursed, of course. Knowing that, would you have tried to do anything with with the amulet? Because you are aware that you can function. It just takes a long time.
Yeah, I mean, if I have any way of interacting with it, I would try to see if there's a way to like remove it, like even if it's like slowly throughout the night while he's asleep.
So what you'll notice is that the opal itself hangs on hooks. So instead of like having chain embedded into the opal itself or having a harness, it looks like it was designed to have a lip where the opal hangs on it. You would have to kind of push it along the chest, like shifting it, but you would be able, yes, you would be able to move it, potentially even off.
Yeah, I would do that then to see what happens if this is holding some sort of power on him, or if something happens when it's.
Yeah. And I will get you that information when we come back from our first break.
Cool.
I'll tell you a bit more about it. Guys, we're going to go ahead and go on our first break here. So we'll see you in about 3 to 5 minutes. Go ahead and bio, get yourself a drink, and when we come back, maybe we'll discover what the Blue Duke actually is. See you guys in just a minute.